Hello,
Yes, sir.
hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Very good afternoon to all of you.
Welcome,
So,
sir. Welcome, sir.
first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Bharati College, to the principal, to my own student Ekta Chaudhary, who contacted me for this webinar, and Deepti Srivastav, who's chair of this session. So, I'm grateful to all of you that you have given me this opportunity to interact with such distinguished people who are connected with this program. So the topic which I am supposed to speak, that is the impact of COVID-19 on the global economic order. Basically, I'm a student of geopolitics, but I'm going to speak on geoeconomics. So I will be speaking from the perspective of geopolitics, and my effort will be to understand the geoeconomics from geopolitics perspective. First of all, I would like to talk about the what is this a global economic order. So, like all political order, the economic order is also shaped, determined by the interaction, and this interaction can be cooperative as well as conflictive. So, economic order is also determined by the cooperative and conflictive interactions between the all the economic powers of the international system. But in these interactions, it is the interactions of the leading economies that matters a lot. And right now, these leading economies are part of the G20. Earlier, they were a part of the G7, but now the G7 is ceding its prominent place to G20. So G20 constitute the 80% of the global GDP. So it is the interaction of the GDP countries that matters a lot. But among these 20 countries, in fact, it is the interaction of the two leading economies that are United States of America and the China. So their interactions, and this interaction is both cooperative as well as conflictive. As you see, the China and America both are the leading trade partner of each other, and secondly, they are also engaged in the trade war. So this is also shaping and determining the character of the next global economic order. So from here, and this the economic order, like any order, is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. But whenever any crisis happens, this evolution process, the process of change, is expedited, and this COVID-19 is no exception. So very safely we can say that the post-COVID-19 global economic order will be definitely the different global economic order. So, before going into the detail how this COVID-19 has impacted the global economy, very briefly, I will talk about the current status. As we all know, that more than 3.5 million, 35 lakh people have been infected by the coronavirus. And out of these, more than 2.5 lakh people have already lost their life. And these two figures, the fatality figures and the infection figure, it is constantly rising here. Keeping the figures in the mind, if we compare the figures of COVID-19 with the figures of the earlier epidemics, then it is nothing. But because you see, the last epidemic was in 1819, 1818 and 1819. And in this Spanish flu, around 50 million to 100 million people lost their life. So compared to Spanish flu death, the death in this epidemic is insignificant. But these deaths become significant because now we are quite advanced in the field of medical sciences. With this advance in the field of medical sciences, the death of this number in itself is very alarming. And that too, death in the developed countries. In America, the figure has reached more than 60,000. And infected people have gone up more than 1 million. Yeah. and it's still rising. Yeah. And the European countries are also worst affected. So because of the advancement in the science and tech, in the medical science, this figure is really very alarming. Yeah. I treat that this is more alarming, and this death figure is greater than the figure of Spanish flu, because at that time the beyond this, now I'm moving to this impact of COVID-19 on the global economy. So global economy, first I will talk about how its impact on the structural and the systemic. So the structural impact, the systemic impact on the global economy is, the first I will talk about the GDP. So GDP of all countries are going down. Yeah. There is no exception at all. And most of the countries will have the minus GDP. They will be, their rate of growth will be in the negative. Yeah. Very few countries, and luckily our own country, India, and probably China also, and some other countries, they will record positive growth. Apart from these few countries, the rest of the world is going to have negative growth. And this negative growth will lead to the recession. And if, as the predictions are being made, that this COVID-19 will prolong, it will have, it will last, some say 1 year, some say 2 years. So I don't know how long it will last. But if it is prolonging and it is continues to be there for 1 year or 2 years, then definitely its impact will be very severe. And then this recession will degenerate into depression, as it happened in 1929, when the global economic recession, which started as a recession, later on transformed into depression. So the same kind of situations is being created. If you compare it to the last economic crisis that happened in 2008, so it is larger, greater than that. So GDP is one part. Then if you go see the impact on sector-wise, so the worst affected sector is going to be the services sector. And in the services sector, this hospitality sector, the aviation sector, tourism are going to be worst affected. Now, if you talk about the aviation, so there is every possibility when the coronavirus crisis will be over, probably half of the global airlines, probably half of the world's airlines will not take off from the ground. They have been grounded for once and all, because they are suffering so much loss that majority of them will become bankrupt. Even if some of them are starting the service because of the social distancing and other reasons, to run an airlines will be a very difficult thing. The same applies to the hospitality sector also. Tourism has come to an almost nil. Even business travel has also been restricted. So large number of hotels will remain vacant. And the same thing can be said about the other allied sectors which are allied with the tourism, that is the transportation, taxi and others. So these will be hard hit. So tourism is one sector, aviation is another sector, hospitality, all related to another. However, there is one good thing in this service sector, and that is the IT and IT-enabled services. In fact, this is the only sector which is benefiting a lot from this lockdown. Even we are having this webinar also through the IT-enabled services. And these companies will definitely make a lot of profit. And probably in this crisis period, this is the only sector of the economy which is going to be have a profitable business. Now, moving from service sector to industrial sector, in all the industries has been hit hard because of the lockdown. So most of the factories have been locked down, and now this lockdown is being relaxed. So now there's another challenge for the industries to restart their production there. And then there is another problem coming to the industrial sector, and that is the global supply chain. We have been in the age of globalization. In this age of globalization, the global supply chain, that is also called value chain, it has become so long. particularly in the field of automobile sector, particularly in the field of electronics. This supply chain is so long. So for making a finished product, one sector is all the industries are depend upon procuring their intermediate goods from different sources. And these are mainly procured from China. China has been affected, large part of the world has been affected. So this global supply chain has been almost broken, it has been disrupted. And this is another challenge for restarting all the industries all over the world. So, since industries are locked down, so they are facing the problem of paying their wages, the salaries, and a lot of workers who, particularly who comes from the informal sector, they have also been hit very hard. Now, government has said that all the industries will pay wages to their salary to their employees. So formal sector employees definitely will be paid, but what about the informal sector? So industries are in the very bad shape here. Now the third sector of the economy, that is the finance sector, the financial sector. So financial sector has also been worst affected. Here you see, since February, in January, this China accepted probably on 30th December that this coronavirus, some coronavirus has come into existence. But till January, they were denying it. By late January, I think in the February, March, WHO was very late in announcing it as an epidemic. So since the global community has come to know that this coronavirus problem has come and it is going to affect the whole of the world. So first, the worst affected was the capital market globally. All the investors started withdrawing their capital from the capital market, stock market. The result was, in the month of February, in the month of March, the capital markets were falling all around the world. As we all know, in the capital market, there is a circuit if a market falls below 10%, and automatically the capital market stops trading. So this circuit was applied again and again every day all over the world, including India. So there has been huge withdrawal of capital from the stock market, the capital market. And it has resulted to the devaluation of the assets, and the valuation has become so cheap that it has created another problem of takeover that I will discuss later, as our government of India itself has banned by the investment from China. So, now these investors have withdrawn the money, knowing this thing, because the industries, service sector, all are going to suffer heavily, all are going to lose heavily. So they have taken out their money. So now what to do with this money? So this money has been invested in the American Treasury bond. Now American Treasury bond, it is the safest investment in the sense, because it enjoys the sovereign guarantee of the American government, which is the largest economy and supposed to be the most resilient. So, so at least in the capital market, there is a possibility of negative earning. So at least in the American sovereign bond, the treasury bonds, at least 1% interest is guaranteed. The Federal Reserve of the United States of America, to discourage this thing, even they have reduced the interest of treasury bonds and had brought it to almost zero level, so that the capital market can be saved globally, and the transfer of funds from the capital markets to the American treasury bonds can be stopped. So apart from this, now the banking sector also will be affected. How the banking sector will be affected? Because people are losing their jobs. If people are losing their jobs, they are losing their earnings. And if they are losing their earnings, people will not be able to pay their EMIs for their housing loans, for their car loans, etc. The result will be, at the household level, at the individual level, there will be large number of default. So this is at the individual level. Another, the corporate houses, their earning also will be affected, because industries are closed down, and even all those inventories they are having in this crisis situation, It is not going to be sold out. So the result is their bottom line will be affected, and the corporate are also in the possibilities of defaulting. If corporate are defaulting, individuals are defaulting, the non-performing asset of the banks will grow. Already the banks were in the crisis, and the government has bailed them out by the stimulus package. So this non-performing asset will expand further, and it will create a crisis in the banking system. Banks might collapse. Private banks might collapse. Government banks also might collapse, but government banks, at least there is a guarantee the government will bail them out. Now, coming to the this, if now all the governments to deal with this crisis now coming out with the stimulus package, the bailout package. And if all the governments are coming out with the stimulus package, the bailout package, it will strain the fiscal deficit, the fiscal condition of all the economies, including India, Japan, America. So these, how this fiscal deficit will be addressed here. Now, IMF has earmarked, earlier it had earmarked $50 billion to meet this government fiscal deficit problem. Now they have raised the amount to $1 trillion here. But think of the situation if the government's fiscal deficit goes out of control in all the leading economies, and their demand from IMF goes beyond $1 trillion, then what will happen to these economies? There might be the problem of that the state also might default. There might be the case of sovereign default. So we can have the situations like as it happened in the European Union when Greece and Portugal were facing the problem of sovereign default, state default. So with many economies, this sovereign default, state default positions might also go. So even the financial crisis is also in the great problem. Now, coming to the another sector, the fall in the commodity prices. The commodity prices has been hit hard. In the commodity prices, I will talk about the mainly the energy, and in the energy, oil. Oil has been hit hard. And even just before this outbreak of the corona epidemic, the Saudi Arabia and Russia, OPEC plus, they had agreement themselves that they will bring down the production, they will reduce the production there. But eventually the Saudi Arabia and Russia, to capture the global oil market, they started the oil war. And in this oil war, the whole world was glutted with the oil. And the result was the oil prices started falling. And the coronavirus added to the problem because of the coronavirus, throughout the world, the lockdown was announced. The 70% of the oil is consumed in the transportation sector. So because of lockdown, the transportation sector was hardly consuming any oil. The result was the world oil market was flooded with the oil, and the consumption has also fallen down. The result was that in the last month, the oil prices went below zero. I am a student of political science. I don't know much about economics, but it is beyond my comprehension how the price can go below zero. But I have been told that it was in the future trading. I don't know what is the future trading and hedge. So it is said that people have bet on oil because it was cheap. And when you the last date of bet comes, you have to take the physical delivery. Since these people were not in the position to take the physical delivery because there was a storage problem. So the result was they sold out their bet so in that future trading, and the price went below zero. Even all those who they paid money just to get rid of oil. So this is the situation of oil. Now oil is trading at $25. So even the extraction cost is around $25. And in some case, like shale oil in America, the extraction cost is $50. So in America, all shale oil companies have become bankrupt because even they are not being able to recover their extraction cost. It is said that even if the global oil prices are more than $50 per barrel, only then oil producing companies can make profit. Or when the global prices at $25 dollar per barrel, at this rate, everybody is losing money. So this is the one sector. What will be the effect of this fall in oil prices? Now it will affect the renewable, because all economies were investing a lot on the renewable, like solar energy and hydel energy, wind energy, different kind of non-conventional sources of energy. So research and development on these energy will decline, and all over the world, these electric cars were also being developed. So probably there will not be demand for these things, because when oil is so cheap, why one should invest on renewables? Why one should invest on electric cars? And now the global environment concern has also gone down because of stoppage in transportation, because of stoppage in travel, because of people being confined to their homes. So the environmental concern has also declined drastically. So probably these renewables future is also affected. This is another area, at least the green economy, for which we are trying so hard, and we are trying to reduce the consumption of the fossil fuel so hard. We are not succeeding. But because of this coronavirus, at least this is the benefit we are deriving. So now the environment has improved, particularly the environment of Delhi has improved, and I'm in Banaras. Banaras is also equally bad, but Delhi people are having very tough time with the bad pollution condition over there. Anyway, so this is it. Another commodity which I will talk about, that is the food. Food, there is no fall in demand like oil. There can't be any fall in the demand for food, because the food demands remains constant. But the problem here has arisen because of supply and demand mismatch. And why this supply and demand mismatch has happened? It has happened because of the lockdown. Because of the lockdown, the vegetables, the fruits, they're rotting in the field. There is no one to harvest them. There is no one to pluck the fruit. There is no one to take them to the processing plant, to process them, no one there to package it and to transport it and to provide it to the consumers. So on the one hand, you have demand for this food items, but on the other hand, because of this lockdown, these particularly fruits and vegetables, they are rotting in the field. So this problem is there. And lastly, the other all those countries, there are many commodities and many countries, as Ghana is dependent upon the export of coffee. There are many countries. Brazil is dependent upon some. So there are many African and Latin American countries who are mainly dependent upon the export of commodities. Since prices of all commodities are falling, declining, particularly minerals, their prices also falling because of the fall in demand. So many African economies, many Latin American economies, many third world economies who are dependent upon the export of commodities, they will be hit hard. So now you see all the sectors of the economy, whether it is financial sector, whether it is service sector, whether it is the industrial sector, all the sectors have been affected badly by the coronavirus. Now I'm coming to the global response, how to deal with this thing. Here I will first discuss the role of state, because the state and market, this debate has been endless debate here. So, liberals say that invisible hand of the market will take care of everything. But when the crisis comes, the invisible hand of the markets really becomes invisible. Markets goes out of visibility. In fact, it is the state to which all the people look. So now the visible hand of the states, they are taking care of everything here. So now the role of state has gone up drastically. Reagan has said that state is a problem. State is not a solution. So state can't offer any solution. Many people say that state has no business to be in business. But now state has to be in the business because all the corporate houses who talk about the market, the same corporate houses now queuing behind the government to announce the stimulus package, to announce the bailout package, so that their businesses, their corporate houses can be saved. So state has come to play the leading role. Even in the 2008 crisis also, it was the state which bailed out these corporate houses. Again, the whole world, in every country, people are looking toward the state. So state is not, a state is announcing the bailout package, state is announcing this stimulus package to save their MSME, to save their big corporate houses. And not only this, even the poor people also, they are also looking toward the state, because it is the state which is involved in the relief and rescue operation. As you all know, globally, the people are being provided the relief material, people are being also rescued from different places. So all these things are happening. Even in our own country, it is the state which is bringing all the migrants, laborers stranded here and there. So, in fact, in the crisis time, the role of states becomes so important. In the economic field, the role of the state becomes critical. And here again, the corporate houses, the MSME, they all are looking toward this. Now I'm coming to the state is also looking towards the investment here, because now investment, because in the globalization it is said that state has no role to look into the capital investment here. But because of sharp valuation in devaluation in the asset prices, China has started buying the stocks of the devalued assets, and it has happened in many countries. So here state again came into picture. They said no, the investment also will be examined, and certain sector of the economy cannot be allowed to be taken over by the Chinese investment here. Even in India also, we all remember that when Chinese state bank, this People's Bank of China, they bought 1% of the HDFC Bank. Immediately after that, Government of India announced that that any neighboring country, in fact, it was directed against China, but it was said that all those countries who share land border with India, their investment will be cleared by the state. Not only India, even in many European countries also, even the European Union also said it is instructed all the European Union countries that they should screen the investment proposals of China, and the Chinese investment should not be automatic investment. So Chinese investment is being screened everywhere, and again this is being done by the state. So state is active in all the fields. So in this great debate of state versus market, right now in this crisis period and in the post-corona period also, the role of state is prominent. So now we can't say that state is we cannot agree with the Reagan, Thatcher and others that state is a problem. It is not a solution. Now state is not a problem. State is the only solution. That second thing, again here the role of state is important. The decoupling, now that is being discussed here. In fact, it was Donald Trump who started this campaign, that the Chinese economy should be decoupled with the American economy. And the Chinese economy should be decoupled not only with the American economy, it should be decoupled with the whole world economy. So the America is advising all its allies, European allies and other allies, that you reduce your dependence on China. Right now, this global supply chain has in fact become in reality the Chinese supply chain. So this supply chain has to be broken, because now China has started, because when economic reforms started in 80s, it started in 79. So then Deng Xiaoping has said that China should wait for the appropriate time. And for time being, China should conceal its strength. So now that time has come. Now China is no longer concealing its strength. Now China is flexing its muscle. And that appropriate time has come. You see, after 2008, in 2008 economic crisis, China played a leading role for bailing out the whole world. And after this 2008 crisis, China came out with many economic proposals, and China clearly showed its intention, its motive, that it is going to take on America in the field of economy. So what China did, they started Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and it was to challenge the American bank. It has to be the rival of World Bank. They started Belt and Road Initiative, the Maritime Silk Route. So all these Belt and Road Initiative, in fact, these were meant to absorb the surplus capital which China has accumulated because of its dominance of global supply chain. So now even BRICS have also come with a new development bank. So now they have even they have come with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization also. So now China is making its presence felt, and now America knows that now China is challenging it. And now many scholars are saying that probably the post-corona world will be the Chinese-centric world, and some say no, it will remain America-centric world. We can't say right now, but it is certain that in the post-corona world, this Chinese domination of the global supply chain is definitely going to be challenged. And again, here the role of the state has become important. Now, now state will determine where their companies will make their investment. Earlier, the state had no role where their corporate houses will make investment. But now, as you all are aware, that Japan has already announced a stimulus package of $2.2 billion. That all Japanese companies should relocate their manufacturing unit out of China. They can relocate it to Japan. That will be the best option. But even if they don't want to come to Japan, they can relocate to some other countries out of China. And even then, the Japanese government will provide them financial assistance in this relocation. Like Japan, the many European Union countries and America also are thinking on the same lines. Donald Trump is repeatedly saying that now American companies should relocate their manufacturing unit from China to America. So all the companies will not go to America, and European countries, they will go to some third world countries also. And so there is a chance for countries like India that this opportunity must be grabbed. So all of our chief ministers are right now are talking about that all those companies who are relocating their manufacturing unit out of China, they should come over there. So these things are there. Can you please tell me how much time I have? If I have, otherwise there are. If I have time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How many minutes? Because abruptly I don't want to be told that you conclude your time is over. You tell me the minutes.
5 minutes, sir.
Oh, 5 minutes. Yeah. So okay. So now the future. What will be the future of this world? So firstly, as the same argument which I was making, I will continue. So in the future world, the first focus of the whole world will be to challenge China and to break this global supply chain. So after breaking the coronavirus chain, the second chain which the international community has to break, that is the China-dominated global supply chain. And the next thing which is going to happen, Yuval Noah Harari, he has written a piece in Financial Times, and there he has argued that there are two responses. So global community has to choose. And the one is, he said that nationalist isolation, and second he talks about the global solidarity. Hariri favors the global solidarity because he said that this is the global challenge. So it should be dealt with globally, and so he has advocated global solidarity. But there is no possibility of global solidarity in the post-corona world because all the national economies, now they are more concerned about their own countries. So borders which in the globalization has said that it is no longer relevant. So now that border is going to be important. All national economies are going to focus on self-reliance. As our own Prime Minister Modi said while addressing the Panchayat Raj institutions representative, that we have to be self-reliant. And Sri Prakash ji was also talking about the Gram Swaraj. So self-reliance, so all the national economies will try to achieve the goal of self-reliance. So this, the comparative advantage and this, the dispersal of the manufacturing units, these things are going to come to an end. So now, in place of these free market economy, we will be having the regulated market economy. Market will be there. Market will not come to an end, but the control of the state will increase. And in fact, this Washington consensus, which was successfully challenged by the Beijing consensus, and it was a state capitalism. So this Beijing consensus, which talks about the prominent role of the state, so that is going to be accepted by all the countries. So all the state will play important role. The national government will play important role in regulating capitalism in their own state, in regulating industries in their own state. And the future economy will be this digital economy, because when everything has become digital, so now the future economy also will be digital economy. So many countries are also launching the digital currency, the cryptocurrency. China has also launched this digital currency. So very soon we will have the digital currency also more in practice, more in use. And lastly, this work from home. This is work from home going to be a new normal. So even this coronavirus will be over, so many employees will be working from home, and particularly in the IT sector, majority of them will be working from home. So working from home will be a new normal. And in our case, in academics also, probably the online classes, which were exception, which never happened in my life. So now these online classes probably become the norm in the post-corona period also. And this webinar, which was exception, I think never happened. I myself never participated. But in the period of 1 month, this is the second webinar I'm participating. So this is also going to be the new normal. So with these the fragmented presentation, I'm concluding my talk. And if there will be questions, I will try to answer those questions. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you so much.